I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, it looks like the Israeli Prime Minister and the U.S. President are about to meet despite a recent tiff. Israel fears that Syrian chemical weapons may leak into the Golan Heights, and worried that hackers could take advantage of the facial recognition technology on your phone. Well, an Israeli startup has the solution. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. It looks like their latest tiff has been put behind them because the Israeli Prime Minister will reportedly be meeting U.S. President Donald Trump next month. Netanyahu will be visiting Washington for the annual AIPAC conference, where the meeting should take place. The get-together will come after an awkward spat between the United States and Israel, after the White House shot down Netanyahu's assertion that the U.S. and Israel were discussing proposals for Israel to annex West Bank settlements. Netanyahu's far-right Likud party has been pushing to formally apply Israeli law to the settlements and allow unlimited construction in the settlements. The Palestinians claim doing so would destroy all efforts to try and save the peace process, a process they believe can no longer be led by the United States as the primary mediator. The White House doesn't seem to be worried, however. The U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson is in the Middle East, and he told Jordan that the U.S. is as committed as ever to seeing Middle East peace.
With respect to the Middle East peace process, President Trump remains committed to seeing a Middle East peace process go forward. And as I indicated, I think the decision taken on Jerusalem was about the United States and our recognition of Jerusalem and where we choose to place our embassy. But the President was clear also in his statement, and as I just indicated in my statement, that the final status, the final borders in Jerusalem are up to the parties to decide. So it does not preclude a two-state solution. If that is the solution the parties seek, the U.S. would support that.
Despite the police allegations of corruption against the Israeli Prime Minister, polls seem to be indicating that support for Netanyahu may actually be rising. While half of Israelis seem to want the Israeli leader to step down, it looks like the popularity of his ruling Likud party has been largely unaffected. It's been just a day since police published detailed criminal graft allegations against the prime minister in two different cases. Now, Israeli media has released a series of polls studying the response of the Israeli public. Israel's Channel 10 News claims that 50% of respondents believe Netanyahu should resign, while 42% say he should continue serving as premier. Hadashot News shows 36% calling for Netanyahu to stay in power, with 48% saying he should step down. Here's what's interesting, though. Back in December, just 2 months ago, a similar Hadashot poll showed that just 28% of respondents believe Netanyahu should stay in power if police were to recommend bribery charges, with a whopping 60% advocating for him to resign. That means that the percentage of Israelis who believe Netanyahu should remain premier, despite the allegations, has actually gone up. On Tuesday, police recommended that Netanyahu be indicted for bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. According to analysts, Netanyahu can remain in power even if he is indicted, and it may take a year or longer before the Israel Attorney General decides whether or not to charge the leader. Now, this is scary. Israel is reportedly concerned that chemical weapons being used in Syria could spill over into Israeli territory. The foreign ministry fears poison gas could leak into the Golan Heights if the Assad regime attacks rebels in the region. As can be assumed, the Israeli government is promising an aggressive response if something like this happens. The Syrian government denies possessing chemical weapons, but investigations reveal the government used chlorine gas and sarin in at least 3 different attacks, killing hundreds. Now, the Israeli foreign ministry has sent a classified cable to 15 different Israeli ambassadors around the world, with guidelines to send a strong message against Iran, Syria, and Hezbollah. This comes just after last week's exchange of fire after an Iranian drone infiltrated Israeli airspace from Syria. Israel is asking its envoys to emphasize that Iran's entrenchment in Syria could increase the Islamic Republic's desire to continue attacking Israel, which could lead to a major escalation of hostilities in the region. Syrian state media has just reported that its anti-aircraft guns fired at an Israeli drone that flew into the country on Wednesday evening. The drone has allegedly retreated, but the Israeli military says it will not comment on the reports. In the years just after the creation of the Israeli state, hundreds and even thousands of babies went missing after their parents, Jewish immigrants from Yemen, had either just given birth or had taken them to the hospital for checkups. The government has long claimed that the babies had inexplicably died and had simply been buried without the parents' consent. But until today, these families are claiming that their children were kidnapped and handed over for adoption to Ashkenazi families. Now the government has just reached a deal with the families of these Yemenite children to greenlight the opening of alleged graves so that DNA evidence can be gathered. Joining us now is Knesset member Nurit Koren, who is one of the driving forces behind this initiative. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So you've been heavily involved in this issue. Why has it taken so long for the government to uncover this mystery? It's been decades.
Yes. Because nobody wants to open this story. So when I came to the Knesset, it's my first Knesset, and I said to the Prime Minister that I want to open this case because it's very, very painful case. And I must say, in this year, it's happened in all over the world, not only in Israel, the kidnap of children and given to another parents to adoption. It's not happened here, it's happened in Australia, in Canada, and we learn about it.
Right.
And it's not good, it's happened, but we must to tell
to face the reality and tell the stories.
Yes.
Well,
and to tell the family where is the children.
Right.
So because of that, I asked Netanyahu to open these cases and all over the papers about it, and to tell the family where is the children.
Right. So we're still waiting on a final Knesset vote for the alleged graves to be opened. Now, if the graves are open and the families are right, how will the government compensate them? Can the government compensate them?
Let's say before, because we need to understand why I have this law. I have this law because we have 3 investigations,
right,
and they didn't do the work, and they covered all the story, and they didn't tell the truth to the family. So now when the Prime Minister opened all the papers and everything, and all the archive of the state, we found a death certificate about the children. And when then we saw that there is a graveyard, and they said the graveyard is in Petah Tikva or in Jerusalem, and I was there, and I saw the small grave, and sometimes there is no grave at all. And they said to me, I said to them, okay, this child is 6 years old. I want you to bring me the paper when you make the grave. And they gave me the paper, and I saw the paper. It's for a child that he is 1 year old, not 6 years old. Right. So I decided to make this law. So there are a lot of
issues with these documents. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think this is a really, really big deal, because if the Knesset vote does, pass its final reading, many, many families are going to finally see the truth about what is happening. And later on, we're going to be showing a story about 2 sisters that were reunited through one of your projects.
Yes.
But thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, my project was the DNA bank, and we have 3. And the last one, it was a month ago. And it's make me very, very happy that I can bring the answer for the family, and not only the answer, to make a reunion from now. It's very, very important to me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us and telling us all about this. All right, 17 people are dead and 16 more wounded following a massive shooting in a high school in Florida. The Israeli Foreign Ministry has just announced that there were no Israeli casualties, but several of the students killed were in fact Jewish.
We were talking to each other, but everyone kept swishing each other, and just everyone was pretty scared, and some people were crying. And just people were trying to comfort each other and saying it was going to be all right, and that we were going to get out of here.
Yeah, well, one of my friends, I haven't heard from him since the shooting happened, so I'm here. Hopefully I can find something. That's why I'm here right now.
Former student Nicolas Cruz reportedly opened fire at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School with an AR-15, sending kids diving under desks as they texted for help. 4 of the 17 killed are allegedly Jewish, and rabbis from the surrounding area are now offering counseling services for the families affected. Nicolas Cruz reportedly had been expelled from the high school in Parkland, Florida for, quote, disciplinary reasons. The shooting is just one of nearly 20 since the beginning of 2018 in the United States, highlighting an epidemic of gun violence yet again. There are 33,000 gun-related deaths annually in the United States. Joining us now on Skype is Rabbi Melissa Stollman, who is one of the rabbis from congregation Kol Tikva, which is around a mile away from the scene of yesterday's shooting. I can't imagine how you're feeling right now. Can you lead us up to the moments where you realized the shooting was nearby?
Sure. I was on my day off, actually, so I was at a local shopping center, and I wasn't here at the congregation. And all of a sudden, I was getting a bunch of texts from the mothers of the teens whose children were at the high school saying, I hear there's a shooting. Have you heard from your kids? What's going on? Just a lot of confusion. I asked people around me in the shopping center, did you hear of anything going on? No. And then all of a sudden down the road, police cars started to fly by, fire engines, and the chaos began. So I made my way over to the synagogue, which is I was only about 2 miles away. And what would normally be a 3 to 5 minute drive took about 20 minutes as the SWAT team drove by and everybody was flying to the scene. And at that point, the children were texting their parents and texting me to say that they were hiding in closets or that they had heard the shots and ran away, literally just walked out the door and ran away as fast as they could.
Well, you know, many of these students are from the Jewish community. How is the community reacting in the aftermath of this tragic shooting?
The community is confused and sad. The teenagers are here in our building right now seeking counsel with local mental health professionals from offices in our own community as well as Jewish Family Services, and they just can't understand what's going on. And the parents are so very sad. Parents of all age children were affected yesterday because once the shootings began, every local school went on lockdown, and the kind of lockdown that you fear, the one where it's active shooter, you don't know where the shooter is. The schools here are very close to one another. There's a middle school right next door to the high school. So, you know, even preschool children were hiding in closets and bathrooms until everybody knew that the shooter had been apprehended.
All right. Well, Rabbi Melissa, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, our condolences to you and the community. I hope that there's some way that you're going to be able to recover here.
Thank you so much.
Hundreds of people around the world are now competing to create the best startup to fight terrorism. And joining us now is Gideon Miller, the chairman of the Combating Terrorism Technology Startup Challenge. Thanks for coming in. So we reported on this. Tell us a little bit about the competition. How many people are competing?
We expect a few hundred startups to enter. We've opened the entry recently. Usually we get a couple of hundred from all over the world, most of them from Israel.
And these are startups that they're essentially creating innovations and technology to combat terrorism specifically, right?
Yeah, there's two kinds. One is startups who are doing that, who are actually building technology specifically for terrorism or for security. The other is startups in virtually any domain who figure out that their technology could be relevant to helping with terrorism.
Interesting. Okay, so, well, first of all, this is being done in Israel, but I understand that the U.S. Department of Defense is involved. Can you tell us about that? What is the connection?
The program's an initiative of 3 bodies: the U.S. Department of Defense, the Israel Ministry of Defense, and the MIT Enterprise Forum of Israel. As I said, it's open to startups worldwide.
So anybody can join the competition if, of course, there's probably some type of application process, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, startups enter online. There's I don't know if I'm allowed to give a plug, but if I am,
yeah, go ahead, go for it. Why not?
The website is cttsc-x.com. And there's a relatively simple entry form, online entry form, following which the judging panel reviews and startups who are...
So when is the contest and when are we going to hear the results?
About 20 finalists will be selected to present live at a conference June 17th, which is part of the Cyber Week activity. So
we're going to have to head to this competition because I'm sure that there are some incredible innovations to keep our eyes on. Is there one that you want to just tell us about quickly?
I'm not allowed to.
Oh, you're not allowed to yet. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and everybody keep your eyes on this competition.
Thank you.
All right. I don't know about you guys, but I find all this new facial recognition technology scary. It was certainly the rage when the latest iPhone came out, but shouldn't we be concerned that hackers can now use our pictures to gain access to personal information? Well, apparently, I'm not alone in worrying about this because one small Israeli company is on a mission to help our faces stay anonymous in this hyper-connected world.
Our photos contain biometric data. Using them and face recognition, anyone can track you, steal your identity, and hack your devices. Using face recognition, anyone can reveal sensitive personal information about you.
Regretting your decision to allow your smartphone to recognize your face? Well, stay calm. The Israeli startup DID says they've developed a firewall to block facial recognition.
We use the most advanced techniques in the image processing and deep learning. And then giving a photo, our algorithm does many changes, many manipulations to the images, but the best changes that it can do. And what is the best changes? The best changes is in terms of fooling face recognition algorithms, maintaining human vision similarity, and third and most important is making it impossible, or I'll say hard, for AI to overcome.
Facial recognition technology can be used to unlock smartphones, tag friends on Facebook, and even help police pick out an individual that's hiding in a crowd. The problem is hackers now have a new target: massive supplies of profile pictures that can link them to your personal data. DID may have the solution. The company's founders began looking for a way to share pictures while protecting their identities after they took a trip to South America. They had just served in the IDF Special Forces and were forbidden from sharing pictures publicly in case they were recognized. The challenge was to confuse facial recognition algorithms.
Face recognition algorithms have become more accurate than humans.
Today, there are very few ways to outsmart these algorithms. Designers have created eyeglasses that reflect light to jam cameras, and there are websites that offer makeup tips for camouflaging your face. But DID is the only company that is using digital alchemy to confuse facial recognition technology. The solution subtly alters stored pictures just enough to outsmart the system. The product is planning to launch in the end of May, but it does have some limitations.
You cannot oblige everybody to use this technology and to publish pictures only after a transformation using this technology. This is a disadvantage.
Not to mention, the technology could make it harder for law enforcement to locate suspects, an issue that DID says it's also working on a solution for. No matter what, though, it's important to protect ourselves because, remember...
Because unlike passwords, you cannot change your face.
They say one bad apple can ruin the whole bunch, but not if Israeli innovation has anything to do about it. A team of Israeli scientists have just found a way to take bad apples that would typically go straight to the trash and transform them into an incredible new super-powered superfood. Chock full of vitamin C, this idea could not only be an incredible health boost, but also conserve millions of tons of discarded apples. The new technology, developed in Israel's Galilee Research Institute, freeze-dries bad apples, adds a pinch of milk powder, and then pummels apples into an uber-nutritious powder. Kind of like a Clark Kent apple transforming into Superman. And in powder form, the superfood can be added to just about anything for a quick, tasty health boost. Millions of apples get sentenced to the dumpster for all kinds of reasons. Maybe they just fell off of the branch too early, or maybe they were just picked too late. And when you consider all of the water, effort, and money that ultimately goes into those bad apples, this idea starts to get even sweeter. So sure, an apple a day might keep the doctor away, but who knows what a thimble of super apple powder will do. All right, the 2018 Winter Olympics are underway, and Israeli athletes have been competing their hearts out all week with the goal of winning Israel's first ever medal in the winter edition of the Olympics. Well, despite scoring season-high scores, Israeli figure skating duo Evgeny Krasnopolsky and Paige Connors failed to advance to the next round. They finished 19th, but unfortunately needed to finish in the top 16 to move on. Even though their Olympic journey has now come to an end, there's still someone else to look forward to. Today, the Israeli skeleton rider A.J. Edelman is making his debut. The Orthodox Jew and MIT graduate is hoping to qualify for the fourth heat of the competition. The day begins with 30 skeleton riders competing in 3 heats, but only those who perform the best will be able to take part in the fourth. Going into the weekend, Israel's medal favorite Alexei Baichenko will compete in the men's skating singles on Friday. Israeli alpine skier Itamar Biran is slated to compete in the men's giant slalom on Sunday. And now for our top 5 with ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh.
Israelis love a good challenge, constantly seeking the most thrilling activities. Well, are you looking for a shot of adrenaline? Because if you are, and you're heading to the Holy Land, these are the top 5 extreme sports to do while visiting. At number 1, we have caving, said to be one of the most dangerous sports out there, and Israel is an absolute dream for you cave explorers, because the Holy Land has more than 4 caving areas: Mount Sodom, Jerusalem Hills, Upper Galilee, and the Hebron Hills in the West Bank. Now, keep in mind, caving consists of climbing, hiking, and rappelling, so it's definitely not an activity you want to be doing alone. I know I sure wouldn't. Second on our list is rappelling, otherwise known here in Israel as snappling. The controlled descent down a rope against a cliff sounds a bit absurd, no? Well, the views here in Israel are out of this world, so what better place to go rappelling than the Ramon crater in the Negev, or how about the Black Canyon trails in the Golan Heights? Now listen up, before you try this, I did try this myself once, and let me tell you, it looks and sounds way easier than it actually is. But then again, I do have a fear of heights. All right, third on our list is skydiving, and if we haven't convinced you of Israel's breathtaking views, this experience sure will. Civilian skydivers must take a course and get at least 10 jumps under their belt before being allowed up to 12,000 feet in the air. Not that I'd want to be anywhere near those heights, but if you're looking for that adrenaline shot, check out Israel's largest skydiving school, Paradive, for some free-falling fun. Now, number 4 is paragliding. Very different from skydiving, people. Trust me, this one I actually tried. All you do is get strapped up with the equipment and literally just fly off the cliffs into the sky. Israel has more than 25 launch pads all over the country and more than ideal weather conditions. The best views in the world with the best weather flying high. What's better than that? Last but definitely not least is the Azrieli Tower Race. Now, this one I just recently heard about and just had to share. What if I told you it would be fun to go run up the stairs of one of Israel's highest skyscrapers? Would you do it? I think not. Well, a few locals decided this would be the test amongst them of who was the fittest of them all. 1,144 stairs and 54 floors in 7 minutes is the record. If you think you can beat them, get on a plane and prove it. That's all for today's Top 5. Back to you.
Wow. All right, and now for our Hebrew word of the day. It's winter, which means it's probably cold wherever you are. So today's word is kar, which means cold in Hebrew. Okay, I'll be honest. Here in Israel, being kar has a different definition. I mean, today, it's winter in Israel, right? It's February 15th, and it's 69 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny, which definitely isn't as kar as 45-degree New York City weather. And they're experiencing cloudy skies too. But don't get me wrong, for Israelis, 69 degrees requires a thick jacket. I mean, when you're used to hot weather almost all year round, everything feels kar. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. You can expect mostly sunny conditions on Friday before rain showers begin on Saturday. The low tonight should be about 52 or 11 degrees Celsius. Then temperatures are supposed to drop on Saturday to a high of 60 or 16 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.52 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.